Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing a review of the Louis Roederer 2014 Cristal. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history, but I'm also going to talk about the famous kind of rift they had with Jay-Z and the creation of Ace of Spades. The house was actually founded in 1776 by Etienne Dubois, and he sold it in 1819 to Nicolas Schreider, who is the uncle of Louis Roederer. So Louis Roederer, in that time, he was kind of an associate, worked in the company, and then inherited the house from Mr. Schreider in 1833. And it's been within this family ever since. So currently it is being managed by the Rouzot family. Jean-Claude Rousseau was at the helm for many years, and then now Frederic Rouzaud, who started to work in 1996, took over management in around 2006. So the actual brand Cristal was created in 1876 for Tsar Alexander II. And he was a Russian Tsar, so that's kind of the packaging of this champagne. So the emperor was he wanted a champagne for himself, but he was worried about people trying to assassinate him. So he asked for a couple of things. He asked for, firstly, the bottom of the bottle is flat, rather than with most champagne bottles, they have a little curve. And if you go back in the history, I think the curve is to make the glass, the integrity of the glass structure a little bit stronger, because you have carbon dioxide, so it could burst the bottle. So they made some technique for him so that they could have a flat bottom. So they're one of the few champagnes that do that. The reason being, he was worried about people stuffing explosives or whatever into the bottle at the bottom. The second thing, he wanted to know what people had in the wine. He didn't want to, or I guess thought he could see poison. But anyways, that's why you have a clear bottle, because he wanted the bottles clear so they could see what's inside the bottle. And because it's clear, that's why it's wrapped with the yellow cellophane paper, because obviously if it's clear bottle, then it's easy for light to kind of affect the wine. And at that time, about a third of their shipments were going to Russia. And in fact, I think most of their market is in Europe. I don't believe US is their biggest market. And because they have such small production of Cristal, we're talking about Cristal, not Louis Roederer, other products. So I guess when you talk to this Frederic Rouzaud, who's a pretty strong-willed guy. He's the guy that had the controversy with Jay-Z. He attributes the success of Louis Roederer and Cristal as through its plot-by-plot vinification. So Louis Roederer has 240 hectares of vineyard and divided into 410 plots, but they press each plot individually, and that ensures quality and it separates the character. And I think from that perspective, no other champagne does that. So that's kind of how you get the distinctiveness of the champagne. It is a blend of 60% Pinot Noir, 40% Chardonnay, and Cristal is aged 6 years in the cellar, and then another 8 months after disgorgement. And about 32% of the wine is aged in oak. So there's a big controversy in 2006 with Jay-Z. So what happened in that controversy? And I actually went back to the original article. There was an article in The Economist magazine, and the reporter obviously wanted a story. So you got to take these things with a grain of salt, right? So he interviewed Frederic Rouzaud about a number of things about Cristal and the brand and stuff like that. And then he popped the question about, hey, what do you think about the, all these rappers at that time were using Cristal in their songs and stuff like that. What do you think about that? And so Frederic probably, gave a response. He wasn't, he's a guy that doesn't pull back punches. So what he said in there, that he viewed that with curiosity and serenity. And then he went on to say, the quote that everyone quotes is, "What can we do? We can't forbid people from buying it." And so that was taken by Jay-Z and another rapper saying, well, that's racist. That's like, what do you mean? What can you do? We can't make sure that these guys don't buy it. But he also went on to say something else. He said, I'm sure Dom Perignon and Krug would be delighted to have their business. To me, that doesn't mean, hey, go over to Krug and Dom Perignon. I think he's saying, hey, what can we do? People buy it. And, but we're pretty lucky. I'm sure everyone else is pretty jealous of us. They didn't put that part in because and I think that got all caught up, and they must have went to JC and said, hey, the guys from Cristal said this about you. And, there was obviously they're not friends and they're not talking to each other. So things can be get out of context. If you look at that article, in that article, there is something that gives a connotation that the hip hop connection was unwelcome and attention for Louis Roederer and the brand. That's not a quote that's attributed to Frederic. That was a sentence that was written by the writer, Gideon Rockman. Having said that, he had a chance to clarify that, and he did, but he probably didn't clarify it the exact right way. The nice thing he would have said, hey, listen, guys, we love people drinking, we love everything. He didn't quite say that. So what he said in his kind of clarification later on, he said, the house of Louis Roederer could not have been in existence since 1776 without having the utmost regard for and interest from all forms of art and culture. This encompasses the most contemporary fashion and music, which allows us to keep in step with the modern age. Cristal, like other great fashion names, has earned great renown by being adopted by some of today's most recognized artists, entrepreneurs, and opinion leaders. That, he should have just stopped there. That's a great statement. But then he went on to say, as winemakers, we cannot deny that we occasionally have been a little bit dismayed at seeing our wine sprayed in celebration instead of savoring in a glass. So he probably shouldn't have said that. So, and he's went on to say he doesn't talk about this very much, but he's went on to say in other articles, like, of course I'm not racist, but I think it's true that he wasn't thrilled about rappers spraying his champagne around. He'd rather have them drink it. So yeah, there's a bit of uppity. And some people say, well, Jay-Z kind of did this for marketing purposes to bring out the Ace of Spades brand. That could be true, but you have to have two to tango. So, I mean, if Louis Roederer Champagne didn't make this statement, then he would have to come up with something else. So I think that's things work out like this. It's a funny story. It hasn't hurt the Cristal brand. They're still, because they don't make a lot of things, it hasn't hurt the brand. There's still people drinking it. And again, I don't think the US market or rappers, although they give a lot of attention to Cristal, they weren't a huge buying block of Cristal, and it helped the Ace of Spades brand. So while I am on this topic, I'm going to try to digress a bit with one of the things that kind of bothers me. As people who view my channel know, I've done a review on Ace of Spades champagne, and I enjoy it actually. And so I do get a lot of heat from so-called, aficionados saying, how could you like that? Same thing when I did a video on Camus, and people are like, it's junk, whatever. That's fine. If people, I have no issue with people having a different opinion. What I have an issue is when people, because the first thing I ask them is when they have that comment, what did you think? Did you drink it? What do you think? And a lot of them will say to me, yes, I did drink it. I don't like it. I have no problem with that. When people say, I've had the champagne, I've had Ace of Spades, I have Cristal, I don't like it, no argument there. What I do have a problem is when people say, well, I would never drink that. Well, how would you know it's good or bad if you've never drunk the wine or the champagne? So that's what bothers me, when people just say, well, I read that it was terrible, or look at the score, it was terrible. That's where I have a problem. I never have a problem when someone says to me, listen, I've had that vintage, I've had that wine, I disagree with you. You totally don't know what you're talking about, Trophy. No problem with that. And so I just want people to open their minds. And I want people to be truthful. If you say, listen, you know, it doesn't sound like a good story to me, but I've never had Cristal because, you know, it's out of my price range, whatever. I'm good with that, right? But what I kind of sometimes don't like is people saying, well, you're stupid to spend this much money for this champagne or whatever. But you've never had it. And so why are you making a comment on something that you've just read about from other people? Please, that's not the point of my channel. My point of my channel is not to say, here, look at me, I've drunk all these things, look at me, wow, wow, wow. No, it is to say to people, this is my view of it. I hope that it helps you when you open it, because that's why I started this channel, because I wanted, a lot of times when I'd open you know, an older vintage wine, I was looking for people that would give me views on it. And it's always so general. Well, in general, this winery. That to me didn't do a lot for me because I was drinking a specific vintage. So I'm hoping that when I drink a specific vintage, when you go try the wine, at least you can review my video, get some background information, and at least the history. And then when you drink it, you can say, no, Trophy doesn't know what he's talking about. Or yeah, I can see where that comes from. It just hopefully enhances the experience. So I wanted to show what you get with the whole concoction of the champagne. So this is the foil that it comes in. And so this is the cap. So you have a cap, and you can see it in the light, Louis Roederer. And then on this is the seal, the foil seal. Get that in focus. And this is the actual cork. Louis, let's get that in focus. 2014. Let's move over to the bottle. Oh, sorry, let's move over to this, which is the box. I think I've done an unboxing of it. It comes with this little pamphlet with some information about the winery. Let's go to the bottle. You'll see it's a clear bottle, and the Louis Roederer insignia. You'll see it's a clear bottle, and I'm not going to lift up the bottle, but the bottom is actually flat. I don't know if you can tell that by the bottle. The back, some preliminary information about it. Only 12% alcohol. And then this is the color, nice and light. I think it does need a little bit of aging. Let's taste the champagne, and I'm just gonna put this in focus. So that's the bottle. I'll close up a little bit later on, but I'll let you know that I've had this now open for a good part of 4 or 5 hours. I put this back in the fridge and it's still effervescent. I don't use flutes. I use kind of a white wine glass. You can see there's still bubbles, so no problem if you want to put this back in the fridge. Just have a cover over it. I had it with lunch. I've had it with a number of different things. So I had it by itself first, then I had it with a meal, then I had it with some cheese, then I had it with some fruits. And it's just, what it strikes me with quality champagnes, it doesn't matter what you have it with, it always, the quality shows through. Let's go through the tasting. So on the nose, lots of sweetness, a lot of fruit, apricots, pears, peaches, some citrusy, I would say some tropical elements to this. So honey, beautiful, beautiful. Maybe even some floral components to it, but beautiful, intense aroma, not too acidic. On the taste, again, all that type of sweet fruit, honey, apricots, pears. On the aftertaste, a little bit of caramel. I think this is a really young champagne still. And to me, this is on the sweeter spectrum of champagnes. And just to let you know, I don't check the dosage before I drink the champagnes. As curiosity, after I drank this champagne, I did go and check the dosages of different champagnes. So in my mind, Dom is very dry, and that's correct. The dosage in Dom is about 5. This is about 7, and it's a little bit sweeter. Like Ruinart is going to be 6. That's a Blanc de Blanc. And then Ace of Spades is 9 or 10, but it has higher acidity. It doesn't taste the same. So to me, in terms of the sweetness, in fact, I think this is slightly sweeter in style than Ace of Spades, in fact. But it is on the sweeter side of champagnes, not bone dry, and that's, to me, preferable. A couple of other notes about drinking this champagne. Don't be afraid to have it at room temperature. So I've just taken this out of the fridge, but I actually drank it earlier today, kind of just let it go to room temperature. It was still chilled, but it actually tastes way better actually when it's out of the fridge for about an hour and it's slightly above room temperature. With these quality champagnes, trust the taste. In fact, if it's too cold, you don't get all the flavors. When you have them a little bit not as cold and towards room temperature, you get that intensity of sweet fruit out of this. And what you'll find is that is a mark of quality. If you try not as good champagne or sparkling wine at room temperature, it's really bad. But this is actually more intense, and you don't see the flaws at all in this champagne. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of edge, a little bit of yeastiness on the end of this, but that's not a flaw. I think it's just young. I think it's super concentrated in terms of this fruit, the sweet fruits. And I think it just needs some time to round out. So I would give this champagne another 8 years. It's, I think, rated 95 or 96 points by Wine Spectator. It's a really good champagne. So I would agree, it's 95 points in my book, but I think it's going to get better, in fact. Beautiful, beautiful champagne. Cristal is one of my favorites to drink with Ace of Spades. Those are probably my favorites when you're just talking about light food or no food. Dom I actually like, but I like it with food. So I hope you've enjoyed this tasting. Until next time, happy drinking.